An opera begins. Within minutes, something unusual happens. The audience does not just listen, they react. Not just to the music, but to what it represents. This is Giuseppe Verdi. At one point in history, his music was not just art, it became a symbol. So the question is, how powerful can music really be? It was a patchwork, lines on a map, drawn by foreign hands, each border a reminder of who really held power. In the north, Austrian soldiers patrolled the streets of Lombardy and Venice. Their language filled the courts, their censors combed through every new playbill. Central Italy, from Bologna to Rome, belonged to the Pope. The Papal States enforced their own rules, blending sacred authority with political control. South of Naples, the Bourbon kings ruled with suspicion, their spies watching for the first hint of rebellion. Even the smallest duchies, Parma, Modena, Lucca, clung to their own laws, their own loyalties, each wary of neighbours and overlords alike. But inside the grand theatres, something different happened. The opera house was the only place where tailors, merchants, students and aristocrats sat side by side. Here, the stage belonged to everyone, and so did the stories. Theatres were not just entertainment. They were gathering places, forums for debate, and sometimes the only safe space for a forbidden idea. In Milan's La Scala, in Venice's San Benedetto, the crowd's reaction could be as important as the performance itself. A single chorus, sung with conviction, could echo far beyond the velvet seats. Every regime knew this. That is why censors hovered backstage, why police kept lists of regulars, why a new opera libretto had to pass through layers of approval. The authorities feared the power of a melody to unite strangers, because in a land divided by flags and rulers, music could travel across borders no army could seal. This was the world Verdi stepped into, a world where the right song, in the right moment, could sound like freedom. And in these divided cities, the question was always the same: who gets to speak and who gets to be heard? Failure came early for Giuseppe Verdi. In March 1840, his second opera, a comic piece called Un giorno di regno, opened at La Scala and closed almost as quickly. 14 performances, then silence. The critics called it forgettable. The audience barely applauded. For a young composer, the humiliation was public and complete. Behind the scenes, the blow was even sharper. That same month, Verdi lost Margherita Barezzi, his first wife and his anchor. Alone in Milan, he wrote of feeling like a man dragged to the bottom of the sea. But even at his lowest, Verdi was not alone. Giuseppina Strepponi, a singer with her own scars from the stage, saw something in him others missed. She became his confidant, then his partner. Strepponi championed his work when few would listen, urging him to keep writing for the stage that had just spat him out. Their partnership, scandalous to some, gave Verdi a reason to try again. The world of opera was not forgiving. Each new piece was a gamble, fame or ruin, money or debt. Mozart wrote to please the courts, his genius boxed in by gilded ceilings and royal whims. Beethoven stormed the boundaries of emotion and form, but even he depended on the favour of patrons. Verdi faced a different challenge. Italy's opera houses were not palaces. They were crowded, unpredictable, and alive with ordinary voices. He wrote for the people, not just the elite. That meant every failure was public, every success a spark in a powder keg. With each setback, the pressure grew. The more Verdi wanted his music to matter, the more he risked losing everything. He stood at the edge of obscurity, staring down a world that demanded both courage and compromise. The next move would change everything. La Scala is packed, students in the gallery, artisans squeezed beside merchants and aristocrats. The lights drop. The overture begins. Verdi, still stung by failure and loss, stands in the wings, watching his third opera take its first breath. The story is biblical, but everyone in the room feels the tension behind the words. When the chorus of Hebrew slaves, Va Pensiero, rises in the third act, the air changes. 16 voices, soft at first, then swelling. The melody is simple, almost fragile. It slips past the censors, past the uniforms in the stalls, but it lands like a thunderclap. The longing for a lost homeland, sung by exiles, heard by a city under foreign rule. A silence follows. Then, chaos. The audience erupts, not with polite applause, but with something raw. Shouts for an encore, unheard of at this scale in Italian opera. The chorus repeats. Some in the gallery shout, "Libertà." Others weep openly. In the police report filed that night, the commissioner warns of a large vocal gathering of students and artisans, and singles out the chorus as a potential spark for unrest. The press the next day calls the music novel Power, and the chorus moving simplicity. Verdi's melody is already out of his hands. In taverns that night, workers hum the tune. In private salons, letters are written calling him the voice of the nation. The authorities take notes. The people take sides. An opera has become something more, a flashpoint, a mirror, a question. How quickly can a song become a slogan, and who gets to decide what it means? A slogan began to appear in the shadows of Italian cities. Viva Verdi. To the authorities, it looked like simple adoration for a famous composer. But to those in the know, each letter stood for Vittorio Emanuele Re d'Italia, a code for the king who might unite the country. The acronym slipped past the censors, scrawled on walls, printed in newspapers, whispered in crowded cafes. In Milan, police files from January 1860 describe secret meetings where activists exchanged hand-drawn cards with those 5 words. In Rome, pamphlets explained the code in footnotes, hiding rebellion in plain sight. But was it Verdi's plan? Letters from the composer hint at a more complicated story. In March 1842, he wrote to his publisher that he wished to give the people a voice that echoes their own sorrows. Yet he also insisted he was not a revolutionary. The music was his weapon, but the message sometimes was out of his hands. Every new opera carried risk. Censors demanded changes to libretti, threatening bans, or worse. Verdi's contract for Nabucco promised him 12,000 lire, a fortune for the time, but every lira came with strings attached. If a chorus sparked too much unrest, if a line was deemed too bold, the composer could lose everything. Theatres kept ledgers as thick as law books, tracking every payment, every fine, every bribe to keep the doors open. Verdi's genius was not just in melody, but in craft. The chorus of Va Pensiero is built on harmonic simplicity, easy to remember, impossible to forget. 16 voices, orchestrated so that anyone could hum along, anyone could claim the tune as their own. That was the real secret, a song that could slip through the cracks of censorship, a melody that could be sung by workers in a tavern or by students in the street. The more the public demanded, the tighter the authorities tried to grip. And yet the music kept moving, across borders, across classes, out of Verdi's control and into the bloodstream of a nation still waiting to be born. Turin's Piazza San Carlo is packed shoulder to shoulder. Royal guards, city workers, merchants and dignitaries pressed together under the new tricolour flag. The air is thick with anticipation. On the steps of the Palazzo Carignano, King Victor Emmanuel II delivers the first words of a united Italy. Then, as the crowd hushes, a choir launches into Verdi's Va Pensiero. The same melody once whispered in taverns and scrawled in secret on city walls now fills the square as a national anthem in all but name. The applause is thunderous. No longer an act of defiance, it is a public embrace. Newspapers call it the soul of the new nation. That day, Verdi is not just a composer. He is called to the Senate, sworn in as Senatore del Regno d'Italia. The music that once slipped past censors now belongs to the state, its composer honoured as both artist and builder of a country. The chorus that once signalled protest now crowns a ceremony. The question of greatness is no longer just about notes on a page. It is about the power to shape history. Every year, somewhere in the world, a Verdi opera takes the stage. Not just in Milan or Parma, but in New York, Tokyo, Buenos Aires, hundreds of productions, season after season. His music survives the shifting tastes of critics, the rise and fall of empires, the churn of new technologies. But what does that actually measure? Is greatness a matter of numbers, a tally of curtain calls, ticket sales and global revivals? Or is it something else, the ability to haunt the public imagination, to become a vessel for hope, grief and rebellion? Musicologists weigh technical mastery, innovation, the complexity of harmony and form. Audiences chase the thrill of recognition, the shiver of shared experience. Verdi stands at the crossroads, a composer whose works are both studied and sung, whose melodies slip from the lips of the crowd and echo in the halls of power. So what counts as true greatness? The answer, maybe, is still out there, written between the notes, waiting for someone to decide. Verdi's music still fills streets and stadiums, not just concert halls. In an age where art is currency and protest, his legacy asks, does greatness mean mastery or moving a nation? The answer echoes every time a crowd sings together. That power belongs to the people. Tell me, what does greatness mean to you?